All right, time to get back to it. What I'm gonna do is grind all this out so that we can start welding it up.
In one of our last videos, I explained how we ended up cracking this knuckle. What we're gonna do is grind this old weld out, we're gonna preheat it, then we're gonna re-weld this. And then we're gonna add all the new parts that I just bought so we can get this rock crawler sitting back on all fours and get it out of the shop.
So now what I'm doing is I'm preheating the knuckle with this propane torch.
I always preheat cast iron before welding it, otherwise it'll typically crack right away.
I'm just gonna get it as hot as I can. All right, so I ground all this out and I've got it preheated. Now I'm gonna weld it.
For welding mild steel to cast iron, you can use a number of things. Nickel filler is one of the more popular ones. There's also a number of other products available on the market. However, I've had pretty good luck with my MIG welder as long as I preheated it and post-heated it. From my experience, you'll start to see cracks form pretty quick in the weld if it's not going to take.
I'm going to add heat just to slowly cool it back down. Cast is such a pain to weld. You can use nickel, you can use this stuff I've used called Easy Weld, and you can just use regular MIG wire. I mean your standard MIG wire. The thing about it is, it seems like most of it's in the preheat. That's been my experience. Easy Weld's supposed to be able to do without preheat, but I've still always preheated it anyway. Seems like it welded up all right. We're gonna let that sit a bit, probably wrap it with a sweatshirt too, just so it cools down a little bit slower. I am getting this all put back together. Just about got everything put back together here. I had this spare drilled out rotor that I already had sitting here. I got this all welded back up. Let's look. You can see here, I ground this out, preheated it, and then ran 2 MIG weld passes past it. Then I kept adding heat as it cooled down and wrapped it up, let it cool slowly. I had another issue over here. This truss was starting to crack as well, right there. The truss actually goes to like right here, so all that was empty space. So I ground out the crack, welded it, and then plated over top of it. So now it has that plating over top of it. You know, and I also found that this knuckle was wallowed out too. I just think all this stuff happened at once. I think when we got bound up like that, I think all this stuff was just letting go at once. We were just that stuck. So, you know, sometimes you just break all kinds of stuff at once. And so what I did is I put a weld washer in there and welded it up, a hardened type washer that I had laying around. So hopefully it'll keep it from wallowing out more. I really should try to double shear those instead of single shear, how these are single shear. I should try to double shear those at some point, but I just took the TIG welder, welded down around right there. So I'm getting this all put back together, and that's the way this goes. You always just find one more thing that you got to address, and it's best to address it now than out on the trail. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I just about got this together. And I got this thing back on all fours again. Happy to get it all back together. This tubing continues to be in my way every time I'm trying to do something. I can't get like the jack squarely under that thing. And then I gotta start taking this apart. Now the nice thing about this car is when we put it together, we used all like quarter turn fasteners for all the panels. So it comes apart pretty quickly. This car has a lot of sheet metal panels. To fit and finish on it, the goal was to have a nice clean fit and finish. But that always means there's a lot more to take apart. So once I get all that off, I've got the skid plate off. That just has bolts. We drop it right out. I gotta take the front skid plate off. Then what I can do is start unbolting the transfer case, pull the transfer case and shifter linkages, all that stuff off, pull all that back, take off the rear drive line, and get all of this stuff apart, get the front drive line apart. Just start disassembling things and see how bad the damage is.
Taking everything back apart is always my least favorite part of this entire process. We're going to have to strip this car down to the bare chassis to try to go back through it, fix all the bent tubes, and get everything straightened out so that we can start putting new parts back into it. This car chassis was designed so that everything can come out somewhat easily. However, it can still be a pain to get everything out of here. Just trying to get this transfer case to slide off, because that transfer case is a lot heavier than it looks.
That's the problem with these things, they're so darn heavy. Once you do get them loose, then you gotta manhandle them. I hate when that happened. Totally didn't have the pan ready in place. I just hit my head on the chassis and then got this loose, and then boom, nothing but transmission fluid everywhere because I overfill it so much. So this is one of those moments where I start rethinking my life's choices. I guess this is what I like to do for fun. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you got to be halfway crazy to call this a hobby. You don't realize how heavy one of these are till you have to manhandle one like this. It's like straight bench pressing a very awkward object that I probably don't want to sit right under. And I have one electrical connection holding the whole thing up, so we're gonna take that off real quick. Oh God. Don't let that fall on me. I'll crush my head. I gotta get in position. I could put a jack or something if I had one of those transmission jacks. Those are pretty sweet. I have to make sure it doesn't hit my face. These things are heavy and awkward, but they are strong, and it's probably a good time. Let's change the oil while we're at it, while we got it out of here. Probably haven't done that in like 4 years or whatever it's been. It's probably hasn't been quite that long since this has been out. I don't know. Anyway, now it's time to get that transmission out and we can fully assess the damage. Alright, so continuing chipping away at this, I've got the exhaust and starter and everything else out this side. Transfer case is out, just about to pull the transmission out, and this is where we get our first sight at like really how broken this is. Right down where the starter mounts, down through here, and up through here. This isn't enough that the head gasket was leaking, so there must be enough surface there. But, you know, you always start thinking about, well, maybe I could just weld it, you know, but I just don't know in the back of my mind how that would really do. So this is always a fun part, finagling transmission out of here. I think I got everything unhooked from it. Then what we're going to do is pull it back and try to drop it out and get a better look at this motor block and see how everything looks. But probably best just to swap blocks and get a new transmission case, and then I don't have to worry about putting all this back together only to have like it crack like again really easy or make a mistake welding it. But I don't know, I haven't made up my mind right now. got plenty of time to think about it as I sit here just taking stuff apart. And look at, there's another bent tube I'm gonna fix. So, and take this opportunity, tear this thing down and really go through it. It's had, you know, four good seasons of off-road use, and the wear and tear is starting to show. All right, so now I just gotta drain this transmission fluid, and hopefully it don't make a mess everywhere, because if it does, I'm gonna be mad. Here we go. Oh, it actually landed in here. I really hate when this gets all over the floor. You know, the sad thing is this transmission fluid is still super clean. Which means the internals of the transmission are probably still good. So this will be the second case that I've cracked. The first time I cracked when it was on the back. And I upgraded this to a K case, a Turbo 400 K case. That's kind they put in RVs and stuff. And I cracked it on the back. And so it's been pretty good for a while, but you know, I just think in this roll it flexed the frame just enough to take out the motor, which, man, had to be a lot of force, the motor and transmission. So good news is yeah, this transmission fluid's nice and clean, so the internal should be good. I'll just take it back to the transmission shop, see if they got another K case they can swap over for me, and just swap these internals once again, check it all out. Transmissions are the one thing I don't mess around with. I'll tear down motors and stuff, but I don't know. Transmissions I don't even want to mess with right now. It's one last thing that I want to put back in there and have a problem. That'll be good. What I'll do is just put this plug back in. I wanted to get most of it. So it doesn't like all spill out the back when I go to pull this off, because that's probably what's going to happen.
I recently used a transmission specific jack to help a friend replace a transmission, and man, those things are nice. I think I need to start looking for one.
I always like the part putting it all back together a whole lot better than the part taking it apart. Because this is where no matter what you seem to do, you always seem to lose a little bit of radiator fluid, a little bit of extra oil, a little bit of that, and it just makes a mess of things. So yeah, I'm gonna get dirty while doing it, and then we'll clean everything up and put it back together nice and clean. All right, so this is where we are at. This is as far as I made it today. I've got everything out of here except the motor. I just have to take off a few more components, the harmonic balancer, stuff like that, and then we can pull the motor up and out of here. This is a dirty job. I did my best not to make a mess, and I still made a mess. So you can see we spilled fluids. So I'm cleaning everything up now, trying to clean everything up because that's as far as I could get today. But overall, we're making some progress here. One of the reasons I wanted to pull the drivetrain out of this thing is so I can start sourcing parts and get ready to rebuild that engine. And maybe I can go drop this transmission off somewhere. Then I can start fixing all the bent tubing on this chassis while I start doing metal work on this one. So we can just make a big mess of metal work and tubing and everything else. So that's what we got going on with all that. I've changed my mind back and forth over what we're going to do with this, and I think we got an idea now.